So I grew up in Southern California in Orange County, which means that I went to Disneyland an obscene number of times growing up. I always had family members who worked at the park, and so we would go really frequently. And I have now taken my own toddlers who are 1 and 3 to the park a handful of times. And all of this means that I have the tips. I have all of the hacks for how to do Disney with toddlers in a way that is going to be the least stressful, that you're gonna get the most done. And today I'm going to share it with you guys. Whether this is your first trip to Disney with your toddlers or you've gone before but maybe it didn't go so well, it was a little bit stressful, I'm hoping that this video has some really great tips for you. Some of them are things that you might know and a lot of them are probably things that you don't, so I'm just gonna jump right into it. One kind of overarching tip that I have throughout this video is to save up before you go, and this might be controversial. I think it is better to save up and do one Disney day and like really go all out and like do all of these hacks, some of which cost a little bit of money, rather than doing multiple days but trying to save as much as you can each day. I think it's less stressful this way. You end up getting more done and it's more enjoyable when you're not like trying to just micromanage your budget the whole time. And I'm gonna start with the most expensive hack and just rip the band-aid off. If you can, I know this is crazy, book into the Disneyland hotel for one night, the night before you go to the park, so that you get the magic hour the next day. I think it's actually technically called magical mornings. It is absolutely worth it to switch hotels if you have a longer trip to just do that one night to get the magic hour. The last time I went to Disneyland with my toddlers, they rode 11 rides throughout the whole day and 5 of those were in the magic hour. And we also got our castle pictures done with nobody behind us right at the beginning of the day. So if you don't know what magic hour is, basically it's when you stay on a Disney property, you get to go into the park an hour before like the rope drop or everybody else comes in. There are practically no lines, everything is wide open, and especially Fantasyland is where you're gonna wanna book it if you do magic hour. Fantasyland is where you're gonna get some of the longest lines because they're the rides that most kids can and want to ride, especially in the morning, afternoon, and early evening. It gets crazy. So to avoid waiting 40 minutes in a line to go on Peter Pan, you're gonna go right in the morning when you first get there. Again, we rode 5 rides in Fantasyland in like an hour, maybe a little bit less than an hour. Get those out of the way first. If you can't or don't want to do magic hour, which is very understandable, definitely make sure you do rope drop. So basically for rope drop, you can get into the entrance of Disneyland 30 minutes before the park actually opens, and you all just kind of mill about that very front section of Main Street where they do like the flag raising and everything until they do proper rope drop the minute that the park opens. Again, a lot of people miss this, so it's much emptier for the first like 15-20 minutes, and you can really use that to your advantage, especially again with Fantasyland. The second thing that you're gonna do if you have toddlers specifically who want to meet the characters, you are going to get a reservation for the character breakfast at Plaza Inn on Main Street. This is specifically for parents with toddlers who want to meet the characters. Again, a lot of the lines to meet Mickey Mouse, Donald, Pluto, Goofy, all of those guys are going to be at least a half an hour long. If you do the character breakfast, again, it is a little bit pricey, but it will save you so much time waiting in line because all the characters come through and show up at your table. They do have other locations, but I personally think the Plaza Inn is the best for like the classic Disney characters that you think of. We got Pooh, we got Tigger, Goofy, and kids under 3 eat free. So it's actually not that bad cost-wise when you compare it to going to another restaurant where you'd have to pay for every member of your family, especially if you have multiple toddlers. Now at this point, your little one might be getting a little bit cranky. Maybe you have a littler baby who needs a diaper change, and I'm going to refer you to the magic of Disneyland for parents, which is the Baby Center, or Baby Centers, I should say, because there are a few of them. The Baby Center is a specific building made for parents of young kids, and they have everything that you need for your baby or toddler. So they have rooms where you can nurse. They have toddler potties, which is amazing if you're potty training. They have places to warm up formula or breast milk, places you can prepare your baby food. They have a vending machine of diapers, changing stations, the whole deal. Here is a list of where you can find the baby centers in Disneyland and California Adventure. I will say that it's not the most economical to buy diapers at the baby center though, so make sure you don't forget diapers because I'm pretty sure we paid like $9 for 2 diapers and like 3 wipes. But it was good in an emergency. Now let's talk about lines. Obviously, little tiny wiggler toddler bodies are not gonna do well in super long lines. So there are two ways that you can avoid the pain of waiting in a super long line with your toddler. The first one is to get Genie Plus. It is an add-on to your ticket, but again, it saves you so much time that you are going to get a lot more value out of your Disney day than if you didn't pay the $20 per person per day. Again, I would recommend budgeting to go all out one day rather than spreading it out over 2 days and not getting as much done. If it's been a while since you have been to Disneyland, you might remember the Fast Pass system. This is very similar, but they have changed it up. It's a paid service now. We all know the mouse loves his money. But I definitely think that getting Genie Plus is worth it. What I don't think is worth it is getting the Lightning Lane passes, which are kind of like buying a Fast Pass for an individual ride. Prices start at $7, but they're more typically like $15 to $25 per ride, which I personally think is insane. And if you only have to wait in 1 or 2 longer lines of the day because you're using your Genie Plus for other things, I think your money is better spent there. The second thing you can do is use Rider Switch, which was previously known as Rider Swap. It changed just a little bit when they introduced the Genie Plus system and the app and all of that. Basically how it works is if you have a kiddo who doesn't meet the height requirement for a ride or is just scared of the ride or doesn't want to go on it for any reason basically, you can have the adults switch being with the kid so that you don't have to wait in the full line twice. So you go up to the cast member at the front of the ride with your whole party and you let them know that you want to use Rider Switch. They will scan your theme park tickets in the app and group A gets to go on the ride right away. So this would be like the first group of adults, people who want to go on the ride. And then another adult can stay with the child. When group A is done, then group B, which is usually like one adult, gets to go through basically like the Lightning Lane so they don't have to wait in the full line again. If you're combining this with Genie Plus, it can make for really quick wait times. And it can also ensure that you can go on all the adult rides even if your kiddo can't. Now I want to talk rides for a second, and the biggest tip that I have for rides is to not necessarily go by the height requirement. Obviously, if your kid is too small, then they don't meet the height requirement. It's a moot point. But my point is that some kids who are more sensitive, like I have one kid who's very sensitive, even if they meet the height requirement, may not be like developmentally or emotionally ready for some of the dark rides. The ones specifically that I would warn you about are Haunted Mansion, kind of obvious, but also Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, I think is what it's called. This one freaked my older kid out way more than Haunted Mansion did, and we thought like, oh, Mickey, Minnie, cartoon, whatever, but it's very loud, it's very overstimulating, there's like a train crash, there's screams. So definitely do some game planning before you get there instead of just looking at the height requirements to see what your kid can go on. Ooh, another one is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, probably not toddler appropriate. And if you happen to go on a ride that freaks your kid out a little bit, you can always do what we did and immediately offer a distraction popsicle from the ice cream carts. Then the last thing I want to touch on a little bit is merch, because merch and souvenirs are obviously very expensive, but I have a couple of little hacks. The first one, if you have a toddler, trust me, is buy a bubble wand on Amazon before you get there. They even have Disney themed ones, they're battery operated, just buy it before you get there. It is so much cheaper than getting the like $30+ ones at Disneyland that honestly break really easily anyway. And this goes for other merch too. You can get more unique and cheaper things on Etsy and Amazon. Like for example, I got these ears on Etsy. I think they're so cute. I got this sweatshirt on Amazon, both way cheaper than they would have been in the park. But if you do want to get a souvenir for your kid in the park, specifically if your kid loves cars, go to Autopia, because the best, like relatively inexpensive souvenir for toddlers who like cars is the Autopia license. So it's after you exit the line for the ride, but you can just kind of go up the exit walkway if you don't want to ride. I don't know why you would want to do one without the other, but basically you get to go into a little like DMV-esque booth and they take a picture of your kid and then it prints out a little license, just like same material as a driver's license, obviously with a lot fewer security features, but they get their own little Disneyland license with their picture on it. And Rowan plays pretend play with his all the time, and it is just like the best souvenir, and it was not very expensive. So those are all of my Disney tips with toddlers from somebody who has been dozens of times. If I missed anything, please let me know in the comments. Let's all help each other out. And if you want more Disney content, I do have 2 Disney vlogs, so I will make sure to link my Disney playlist up here for you guys so you can check them out. And don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. I would love to have you here on my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you lots, and I can't wait to see you in my next video. Bye!
I follow only golden